Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today, too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Today we're going to talk about staff evaluations, and this is something I started doing in my first year as a head coach. I continued doing this when I was a coordinator as well with my coaching staff. I think it's so important to give the people you work with feedback. I think a lot of times we assume that they know. I know early on in my career we didn't have these at every place I was, and a lot of times you left the season wondering where you stood, what the plans were for you. And I think it's just important to know what your staff wants to do, how they want to develop, both with your program and maybe for themselves as they continue in their career. So there's a lot in this one. I think a lot you can do, whether it's taking small parts of this, doing it with the assistants if you're just a coordinator. But I think it is important to do in some form. So I hope this one's useful to you, and we'll have more episodes on evaluating the season as we're all coming out of 2024.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
As we transition out of the season, we're going to take a look at some things, what we can do to look back and evaluate our program. And we've been approaching that in our different series on how you evaluate drills, how you evaluate your offense. We talked last week about evaluating tempo, both from the offensive and defensive side of things. So we want to offer you a lot of ideas about how you can evaluate your program so that you can make improvements. I've talked before on this podcast about evaluating your players and having them self-evaluate themselves so you can better see how they feel about where they're at in the program and what they think their contributions are, what they think their strengths and weaknesses are, as well as being able to sit down with them and have those discussions. So today, though, we're going to flip that to the staff side of things. And the staff really needs that evaluation, something to bring the season to a close, give that season some finality as you wrap up and head towards the 2020 season. We talked last year to Coach DiGaetano, who at the time was finishing up his first year at SUNY Maritime, about how he did some of his evaluations. He actually did some of those during the season and utilized Google Forms. I think that's a great way to do this because as you start to accumulate this data from your coaches, especially some survey type questions you might put in there, you start to get a picture of where everybody is on the staff. And then certainly that hangs around. You don't have to worry about, filing that, putting it there. You have that right there in your Google Drive. So what you really want to look at and think about is a reflection in several different areas. So let's start first with just some of those duties, right? You want to know how your coaches feel about the job that they have right now. So first of all, you have them, list their job. You should know it. And ask them, how did they feel in coaching that position? Maybe it was a new position for them. So you want a reflection on that. What did they feel were their highlights? Where did they feel that they needed to develop, to improve, maybe to do some things this coming off season? Just like the players, you want to think about giving them questions with a scale. For the players, it was typically 1 through 6. I don't recommend an odd number because they could just answer in the middle. So you want to see, are they feeling strong about something, or are they feeling on the other end that they're below average where they need improvement? So, thinking about things just like with the players about investment in the program and considering each of those phases, you might want to break that up and have questions on their investment into the offseason, investment into the summer, investment into in-season, especially weekend type of duties, because I know some coaches struggle there with some other family things they might have. You want them to be honest about how accountable they are in getting things done. Think about things like their work and what they do in putting something into the game plan, getting the reports done. However you do things, the recommendation is to really tailor it to your workflow. Think about your workflow, their role in it, and ask questions there where they, again, can evaluate themselves on some kind of scale from below average to strong or excel or something in that regard. Ask them about their professional development the past season. Did they spend time on things? And where were those times put? Was it something that they put into technique? Did they put it into scheme? Did they put it into better coaching methods? Understanding how to develop relationships? Where did they put their time in the past off season? And then how did they feel about their growth in those areas? And then I think a good follow-up to that is, where do you want to put your time into this next season? And do they wish to have some kind of a position change? Again, a lot of times there's movement in the staff. Maybe they feel more comfortable, for example, coaching running backs, but you only had a position for offensive line this year. Do they want to make that move? How do they feel they can better serve the program in a different place? I would ask them questions about knowledge of your systems, right? Where do they need to improve in that? Because a position coach, for example, can really get deeply involved in all the things that he does, the blocking, the pass protection. Does he overall understand how you set up your pass progressions, what your route structures look like? There may be some development you need to do internally on your staff there. Commitment to the offseason, availability for the offseason. What kinds of things does that coach have planned that you may need to account for? Could be, summer vacation time or something that he needs to do with his family at a certain time of the year, especially if they're not a teacher. Maybe he's going on vacation at a time that doesn't align with school vacations. So again, thinking about those kinds of things, getting that up front, at least what the availability is going to be. You need somebody, obviously, who can put the time in. Having them reflect on the development of their athletes, not just on the skill side, but also did they develop them from a character standpoint, right? What did they do to add in those areas? And asking them maybe where they feel they can get better, what they can do in helping those kinds of things. And then I think a general survey of the program, just like we do with the players, thinking about areas where there might need some improvement. How did they feel about all the different phases? I mean, you sat down last year, you planned through these things, you met as a staff, but then you executed them. And so if you haven't met along the way and done some meetings and analysis along the way of how well that worked, this would be a good time to look back on that now and see, did those things we worked on in the off season, did the time we spent in our off-season program, maybe on some conditioning programs, etc., did those pay off the way we thought they would? What suggestions do you have to improve in those areas? And they could be little things. They might be administrative details that can help you get better. The idea is you want to collect as much information about your program from the guys who are there every day living it. It's easy to sit back as a coach and say, well, this is what I think went right or wrong, but give them the opportunity to do that. And I think the survey is a place that they can do it without interruption. They can sit down and think about those things, and they can answer questions. They can evaluate on a scale. I think there's a number of different ways you could put those together on a Google document in order to get some of those answers. I think you'd want to tailor some questions to your coordinators as well, thinking about the different areas they're involved in. How well do they feel they did in practice planning? How well do they feel that they did in game planning? Were they responsible for play calling? What was their assessment of how well they did in those areas? I always liked to go back to and let them reflect on different opponents, right? The wins, the losses, either way, thinking about what is it going to take to beat X opponent this next year, and at least leaving the season, what are some thoughts there? Because you're going to have to put together that plan that's going to go from January all the way up to next season and into the season. That's going to account for all those things. So this is the opportunity to really get detailed about the things that you want to do this next season, things that need to get worked into your program, every area, offense, defense, special teams. Think about your culture playbook. How are you building the culture of your team?
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Think about your involvement in the community. You know, there was a year where we felt it was very necessary for us to be more involved and do some community service and show that, you know, what the football program was all about. Because it was a time for us, you know, thinking back on that year, and I don't remember, it was somewhere around 2005 or 2006 that, you know, our players faced a pay-to-play situation if the school levy wasn't passed. And so we wanted to go out and show exactly what we could do, what we were doing in our program to build these young men and to build them more in just something outside of the football program. And they were simple things. I mean, we went out there and we cleaned up some playgrounds around the schools. We did a community cleanup day and made sure we participated in that as a team. We went out and read to kids in the elementary school. And then there were other little projects along the way that the players took part in. So, you know, what are the things that are going to really add value to your program, to your community, that you can identify right now? Really leave this, I think, if you can construct it in a way that leaves it open to them giving a lot of input, don't get too narrowed down, I guess. Leave it broad in some areas. Other areas you might want to include some of those scales that you could put in. Other, you know, some just require a written answer. But I really do like the idea of doing it on Google Docs. So if you haven't done that yet, haven't used Google Docs, find somebody who's familiar with it and have them teach you or have them set it up. Because I think it's a great way to be able to get all that information in one place, see all those answers at one time, aggregate some of that information that is put together as a scale and seeing where things are at from your coaching staff. And be sure not to forget the younger parts of your coaching staff. And it might not be as detailed, but you want this to reach down to your freshman staff. You want this to reach down to the junior high staff. If you are involved in the youth program, you want to get some feedback from them as well. So think about ways you could do it. And, you know, the beauty of it is with Google Docs, everything's just an email away. You don't have to necessarily call a meeting to get everybody together to hand out these forms. They could sit down and do it on their phone, their iPad, their computer when they have the opportunity. And I think the biggest thing is give them some time. You know, I would say don't give this out immediately after the season. If you haven't done it yet, give it a week to 2 weeks to let everybody chill, decompress, gather their thoughts, get away from the emotion of the season, and then start to gather this information and give them a little bit of time to reflect on it too. So, you know, as we're looking at it right now, maybe you wait till about Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, give it to them then, and give them a couple weeks, maybe up till the Christmas break, to get those back to you. Then you have that information. You could put that together, really get an agenda together for your first staff meeting of 2014. If you're going to put together some plans yourself as the head coach from this data, you have some time to do that and get it together. And, you know, overall, you want to think about how can you help your coaches professionally develop. So that's the objective of these kinds of things. I know I've been receiving some of these from other coaches. I'll see if I could share some out, or at least some examples, some screenshots of what they've put together. And I think it's very valuable to go through this process with your coaches. Now, it's not always an easy thing. as the head coach, you need to sit back and be willing to take some constructive criticism from your coaches. And really, you want it. You want that open door where they feel that they can tell you the truth. Honesty is going to help you. The open doors of communication are going to help you to improve your program. So be open to and listen to, and, don't defend this right away. If you see something you don't like, dig into those reasons with the coach. The last step in this process is after you've looked at all these, I've always felt strongly about taking some time and setting up meetings to sit down with my coaches and maybe spending anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. I think they could be on the shorter end, and just going over some of those things that you saw there. You don't have to go over every single thing, but things that stand out for you. And again, things that maybe you need more clarification on. But overall, the idea is let's improve the program. So approach this off season with a sense of being able to evaluate things. And I would say if your head coach doesn't do this, but you feel this is something is important, sit down and write an evaluation of the things you did. Include yourself in it, right? Self-evaluate and evaluate areas of the program, or at least share ideas with him on paper where you might be able to help the program as well. Because everybody doesn't necessarily do these kinds of things, but I think you'll find that if you take the time to sit down and put your thoughts together in an organized way, that the head coach will appreciate that. If you're a younger coach on the staff, it's going to show that you're taking some initiative here and you really do care about the program and you're there to help. So again, be positive in how you do it, but be honest as well. We'll continue to look at ways to evaluate the off season, all the different aspects of this as we go through the next few weeks here. At Coaching Coordinator, we pledge to source the latest and greatest products and services available in the coaching marketplace. We call this repository the 10% Toolkit. These resources are proven to help coaches win games and achieve all objectives for their programs. Think of it as a buyer's guide for vendors and suppliers we trust with our seal of certification. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.